Someone left a comment recently, and it's kind of directionally right in the broad outline, but it's wrong in the details that actually matter. Now, the claim was essentially Germany defeated Nazism after World War II through denazification. Adenauer helped, Brandt helped, and it worked. End of story. But the real lesson lives in the parts that got compressed in that really simple to deliver outline. So let's actually walk through this, because after World War II, the Allies forced a reckoning in Germany. Nazi organizations were dissolved, Nazi symbols were removed, major war criminals were tried at Nuremberg, 19 were convicted, which I know that number sounds egregiously small. Millions of Germans were vetted through questionnaires and tribunals. Teachers, judges, police, civil servants, and press figures were all screened. By July 1946, the U.S. Army's Information Control Division had taken control of 37 newspapers, 6 radio stations, 314 theaters, 642 cinemas, and thousands of publishers, book dealers, printers. Using media control as part of a larger project of democratization and anti-Nazi re-education. That all happened. What also happened is what came next. By 1946, 1947, the denazification effort was already losing steam. By 1951, West Germany had passed laws that effectively ended the force of denazification as a purge and turned the country toward reintegration. Now, here's what was happening at the same time. West Germany passed amnesty laws. Civil servants and former soldiers who had been removed or excluded after the war regained employment and pension rights under Article 131 of the Basic Law. The 1949 amnesty benefited roughly 800,000 people, and many of those were charged with ordinary post-war offenses from the hunger and black market years. But the amnesty also reached crimes from the Nazi era. As historian Norbert Free shows, sorry for the pronunciations here, I'm doing my best, but I'm surely butchering them to a degree. But West Germany's early politics of amnesty and integration also protected people implicated in Nazi-era crimes and helped several former Nazis re-enter public life. A later amnesty law in 1954 went even further, weakening or undoing tons of earlier denazification sanctions, including proceedings from the British zone. So Adenauer, I can't remember. Sorry. People always come at me really hard in the comments about my mispronunciations of certain names. I'm sorry. I do my best. I don't attempt to not look them up or attempt to not know how to say them. I can only do what I can do. So be that as it may. But anyway, this person who was personally anti-Nazi, who had been removed from office by Nazis, who did build a constitutional democratic West Germany, presided over all of this. He said the truly guilty should be punished, but argued that Germany could no longer keep dividing people into the politically reliable and the politically unreliable. He argued that ending the denazification was necessary for rearmament. He relied on Hans Globke, a powerful state secretary in his chancellery, who had been involved with the Nuremberg racial laws and helped give them legal form through an influential official commentary. Adenauer was personally opposed to Nazism. He helped stabilize West Germany and their democracy, and also helped former Nazis return to the machinery of the state. So that's a fuller and more honest answer. Now, Willy Brandt. Brandt's role is very real. The commenter just put it in the wrong place. Brandt became chancellor in 1969, more than 2 decades after the occupation. His importance was moral and symbolic, I would say. In 1970, at the Warsaw Ghetto Memorial, he knelt. He didn't plan it, It wasn't on the schedule. He just knelt. And that moment mattered because it represented a Germany that was finally beginning to accept public responsibility in a way earlier leaders had actively avoided. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1971 for helping move West Germany toward reconciliation with the countries Nazi Germany had devastated. So here's what actually happened. Let me take a sip of this coffee because I've been holding it for a few minutes now. And I really want it. But Germany's transformation came in layers. First, military defeat and Allied force institutional cleanup. Obviously very real, practical, significant, and fading fast under Cold War pressure, ultimately. Second came democratic rebuilding. A constitutional state, rule of law, integration with Western Europe, and a new democracy built partly by people who had served the regime before it. Third came a long, slow public memory project. Trials, student movements, generational conflict, education, memorials, leaders like Brandt. And that made Nazism morally toxic in a way occupation law really never fully managed to do. The first layer removed Nazism from formal power. The later layers made it something Germans had to keep answering for. Now here's why that distinction matters now. Defeating an authoritarian movement politically does not automatically remove its people, its habits, its myths, or its excuses from the body of a society. Germany is a stable democracy today. It got there slowly, unevenly, and with significant compromise along the way. Former Nazis returned to the judiciary, the police, the ministries, and the state administration in large numbers, really. In some parts of the early West German state, the continuity was pretty staggering. The civil service was rebuilt with people who had served the old one. Now, that reality sits alongside what Germany eventually became. It worked I'm not trying to beat up this commenter. It was a really good comment. That's why I wanted to jump in here and make a full video on it. But it worked, in my mind, the way that it struck me quickly was that it's a dangerous shorthand. It worked because later generations kept forcing the truth back into public view, because they refused to let the amnesia take hold. Democracies recover through institutions, memory, accountability, education, and the relentless pressure against the old poison returning under new language. Repackaging efforts are very real. The fever simply doesn't break on its own. So thank you to the commenter for bringing this up. It was very helpful. I think it's very important to talk about this. And I'll try to find ways to talk about this more concretely, ideally more succinctly. I'm looking at the time in future videos, because I think that this is an important thing for us to start to lay the groundwork on now.